Hi everyone. So today we will be doing the class 2, and so in the last class we covered up until the benefits of globalization. So we will be, like I explained in the last class, so we will be going ahead with the problems and further to that, for topics further to that. So I just want to explain you what we will be covering today compared to the specification document. So in the last class, we went through all the concept of globalization and the different types and so on and forth. So today we will be mainly discussing on the problems of globalization, the investment process details, and also we will touch base on the second learning outcome, which is the impact of the global business environment on the national and multinational business organizations. So these are the things we will be covering today. So let me take you guys through the lesson and then we will move forward with that. Okay, so let's move on to this. All right. So in the last class, so we addressed, we actually looked on the types of globalization and, the types and the importance of globalization and so on and forth. So in the same way, we saw the benefits because when I was explaining about the concept of globalization itself, we saw details with regards to, the benefits and so on and forth. So today we will be discussing about the problems that would be faced as a result of globalization because like I explained in the previous class, globalization means not just about the benefits the businesses can face or even, the benefits the countries can face, but there are also problems that could be faced as a result of globalization. So when it comes to the problem, so here the first point here is about destabilizes markets. Okay, so I'll take you guys through that. Critics of globalization blame the elimination of trade barriers and the freer movement of people for undermining national policies and culture and local cultures. Okay, so basically, what's happening here is there's free movement taking place. So when there is free movement, um, that means the different cultures would come into place. As a result, now, for example, you are in a particular country. I would say, okay, let's take United Kingdom. Okay, so in the United Kingdom, they have a set of cultures, rules, and regulations that's being followed. But because of the freer movement, when it comes to Brexit back then, when they had Brexit, so there's a lot of free movement. So there are different cultures. The people from different cultures would come into the country, and then that would actually affect the local culture of the United Kingdom. Okay, so for example, there are a lot of French people coming in. There are a lot of Polish people coming in. So they would bring in their cultures. To some extent, that is actually something enjoyable because you learn about the different cultures, you learn about the new sets of things they do. That's to some extent, it is interesting. But however, when it comes to a certain point, what would happen is they would overtake the culture. So in that case, there'll be problems taking place. There'll be problems coming into the nation. So that is a problem of globalization. And they also mentioned that labor markets in particular are affected when people move across borders in search of higher paying jobs, or companies outsource work and jobs to lower cost markets. Okay. So what happens here is, so because of the freer movement, a person who is working in the United Kingdom and they prefer to earn more, and there is an opportunity somewhere outside the United Kingdom, so they move out. So there is brain drain cost there, right? So the employed people, the employable people, educated lot, they move from their nation to another in search of jobs because they get paid well there, they have better opportunities there, and so on and forth. So as a result, there is a labor market problem in the United Kingdom. Example sake, okay. So that is the problem of globalization. Freer movement, of course, benefits of culture and more people coming in, but also there is a problem when it comes to cultural damage and educated lot moving out of the country. Okay, so that is one of the disadvantages of globalization. And then when it comes to damages, damaging the environment. Okay, so to some extent, in the benefit section, when we were talking last week, we actually addressed some of the infrastructural developments when it comes to environmental growth, inequalities being reducing. There is, labor shortages being reduced, standard of living of the people increasing. That is one part of the sector. Okay. And then here there is damages to the environment being caused as a result of globalization. So let's look at that now. The transport of goods and people among nations generates greenhouse gas and all the negative effects it has on the environment. Movement. So there is more movement, there is more effect to the greenhouse. Global travel, airplane, global travel and trade also can introduce sometimes inadvertently invasive species to foreign ecosystems. Industries such as fishing and logging tend to go where business is most lucrative or regulations are less strict, which has resulted in overfishing and deforestation in some parts of the world. Right, so this is about the fishing trade they're talking about. So we say because of this, they can make use of certain areas and do overfishing, which is actually damaging the environment because there is not enough, you know, resources for it to reproduce, and there is a shortage taking place there. So there is a lot of damage caused as a result of globalization when it comes to the environmental impacts. Okay. And then the third point, like I just explained, lowest living standard. To some extent, of course, it's gonna, improve the living standards. But however, there is a lowering living standard too. Let's look at the lowering of living standards. So when companies move operations overseas to minimize cost, such moves can eliminate jobs and increase unemployment in sectors of the home country. Okay. So the same thing when it comes there's so businesses move out to some extent. When the businesses move out, it is beneficial for the business in terms of lowering the cost. It is beneficial to the host country in terms of increase in, the demand for labor, increase in demand for labor. But in the home country, because the factory is being shifted to the host country, there is a problem being created in the home country as a result of limited jobs. Okay, because they're taking up the jobs from the home country to the host country. There's no much jobs available in the home country, so that's going to reduce the living standards of the home country people. Okay, so when there is one positive impact, there on the other hand there is a negative impact. So that is a problem of globalization. Okay, right, let's move on to the next slide. All right, here we look at it facilitates global recessions. So when it comes to the recession, there is it actually helps with recession taking place. It's okay. Let's look at how here. Tightly integrated global markets carry a greater risk of global recession when they are closely working together. The 2007 to 2009 financial crisis and Great Recession is a good example of how intertwined global markets are and how financial problems in one country or region can quickly affect other parts of the world. Globalization reduces the ability of individual nations to effectively use monetary and fiscal policy to control the national economy. Okay, actually, when it comes to this, you can always take Brexit as an example. Now, when it comes to globalization, when the countries work in a connected manner, right? What happens here is that the countries, because they work in a connected manner, they do not have the freedom to make their own decisions when it comes to the monetary and fiscal policies. Okay, monetary policy, it's about, the interest rates and the charging of interest rates, the investments involved in connection to the interest rates, and so on and forth. Fiscal policy is about, you know, taxes and all sorts of things. So when there is a recession taking place, a particular country, when it is interconnected and when it has no like when it has no sole decision making power, that's gonna result in a global recession. So when it comes to one of the countries that's involved in Brexit, when one country faces a recession, of course, to some extent, it's going to be beneficial because the countries can join together, help, and help them succeed and move forward. But on the other hand, the global recession will affect the countries involved. So to some extent, there is a problem that's being experienced and that would affect the country because of globalization. Why there is a group formed? Because there is globalization only, the group has been formed. So when one country gets affected, the other also gets affected. So that is a problem here. Okay, so that's about facilitating of global recessions. Okay, then the next point would be the damages caused, the damages as a result of cultural identities. Okay, so let's look at that point, although we've discussed bits and pieces before. Critics of globalization decry the decimation of unique cultural identities and languages that comes with the international movement of business and people. At the same time, the internet and social media are driving this trend even without the movement of people and commerce. Okay, so there is problems when it comes to cultural identities, although there is internet and social media which is benefiting in terms of that, but it has caused, so to certain extent it has caused problems, and this is as a result of the international movement of businesses and people. Okay, so that is about the problems of globalization. Okay, so here we will be talking about the investment process, which is a next section or a next subsection of the learning outcome 1, which we will be discussing here. Second. Right. So let's look at this. Right. So let's look at the global investment process. I'll read through. Investment is a long-term commitment to generate a higher return in the future. Of course, because even it comes to between, when it comes to global or national, even small scale businesses to large scale businesses, investment means you invest, and of course, your aim is to generate a return in the future, either it be big, small. Of course, one of the main goals is to get the return back. Affiliation and foreign investment is when citizens and government of one country invest in industries in another country. Okay, so that is foreign investment. I think I've discussed about this. We spoke about foreign direct investments. When we were talking about globalization, the benefits of globalization, we also touched this point, which is foreign direct investment. So they're talking about when a citizen or government of one country invests in another country, it is called affiliation or foreign direct investment. The main types of investment is foreign direct investments, which means investing in productive assets of another country, that is domestic structures, organizations, or equipments, so and forth. Opening up a factory there, opening up a factory in different country, and domestic structures, building up maybe even a retail store, so and forth. It's called the foreign direct investments. So here it's about the affiliation between the concept of globalization and investment process. Okay, there is a greater interconnectedness among markets around the world as a result of globalization and business opportunities in far corners of the globe and increased communication. There are new investment opportunities for investors, and they can study new markets at a greater distance than before due to globalization. Very true, which is what we also touched base on the last class. So, because we spoke about foreign direct investments, I think it would be even more clearer with this class for you guys. So, like you see here, there is a greater connection, and the new markets, they're saying that there are new investment opportunities for investors, and they can study new markets at a greater distance than before due to globalization. So because of globalization, there is many more investment opportunities created, and then the studying of the new market has also been really, really possible in the current scenarios, because back then it wouldn't have been that easier to do so. But then now it has become very easier, and also there are a lot of opportunities that's being created. Okay, and through increased investment and trade, countries with good relationships are able to increase their unity with each other. Of course, because when the countries work together, there is a lot of trade taking place, and also there is unity, because once they start to do the trade, they become more comfortable and they increase their trade, and to some extent it would keep on expanding. So there is a lot of expansion taking place. Expansion means there is increased investments and trade taking place. Since the products and services are widely available in new markets, resulting in directly improved economic opportunities for workers, these opportunities results in a wide range of investment options for investors. So if you see in a circle, it keeps coming again and again and again, because there is country A and country B, okay, and then country A produces certain products that they can produce more, and they can also export. Okay, so in that case, because the country A and country B has a good unity, has a good relationship, country A and country B both benefit together, okay, because of the trade taking place, and one country being able to produce more, and the other country being able to work together. There is unity. Because of that, there is trade taking place, and this eventually is increasing the investments and the different investment options and different opportunities being created among the countries. Okay, so this is the concept of affiliation and the investment process between the countries taking place. All right. Okay. Globalization and global investment are tied together, and lead into one another as companies act internationally by increasing their global investment out of common interest, and they need to stay globally competitive. Okay, right. Here they're talking about the competitiveness too, right? Because of globalization and global investments, it leads to one another as companies act internationally by increasing their global investments out of common interest. So there's a common interest that's being put into the businesses and the countries the businesses involved in are, and they have a common interest, they grow a common interest, and they work together to stay globally competitive. It's that they are not competing with each other, but then they are working together and they are trying to stay globally competitive. There must be different competitors outside, but then when they work together, they don't want to compete with each other. So there is a very what can I say, it's an healthy form of competition, and then it's operating between the countries. So as a result, there is it's actually some sort of a benefit when it comes to investment process and investments taking place. So this is actually a very good approach there because there is a healthy competition taking place. Okay, companies that economically connect are compelled to invest in each other continuously to protect their economic health and gain new profits as a result of globalization. So here there is an economical element involved. So when they are connected economically, so their focus is towards growing the economy in a healthy way. So they will keep on continuously investing and expanding. Global investments have increased as a direct result of globalization and will continue to do so, which will result more economies into globalization, which will further increase global investments. So these are all benefits, right? When you read through, you understand that there is a connection, there is growth taking place, there is economic boom, there is opportunities being created. So these are all good. These are all good terms when we come across. So because of globalization, because of investments taking place, and because of investment process being allowed as a result of globalization, economies expand. Of course, the businesses expand. The people also have a good living standard. Okay. Right. So we will be looking at the advantages of investment process with globalization. Okay. Give me a few minutes, guys. Right. So we will now look at the advantages of investment process in relation to globalization. So always when you are talking about some advantages or disadvantages, or when it comes to, that you need to explain, write in your assignments or so and forth, always make sure that you understand the concept, because now here we are talking about investment process, so you need to like clearly understand what investment process is, what it is about, and the importance of investment process, its other key elements related to, for example, why we discussing about investment process, because we are mainly studying about globalization. So investment process is one of the elements of globalization. So when it comes to in your assessments, if they ask, okay, discuss about the pros and cons of investment process to the United Kingdom. So you need to always make sure that you understand the concept, you understand what investment process is, so that you can put into words and connect it to the application. Application meaning they're asking about United Kingdom means you need to apply to that and write it. So for that, it's very important that you understand the theory first. So first you understand theory, which is the investment process. So here we are going to discuss about advantages. So when you are listening to me explaining, you always make sure that you understand the concept, and then you finally, whatever I explain, you connect it and then understand. So it will be very easy for you to grasp it, right? So now here we are going to talk about the advantages. So first thing is the investment encourages jobs in both countries, right? When you see the discussions we have with regards to, the globalization, the benefits and disadvantages of globalization, the advantages and disadvantages of investment process, it all has connected element there, right? Because we are explaining and discussing everything about something related to investment. So it all has a connecting aspect there, right? Now here, first point here is that the investment encourages the job market in both countries. So here there is an investment taking place. So country A, the organization in country A is investing in country B. So like I explained before, there is job market being created. Okay, so to some extent, because like we also saw about the benefits, we also saw about the disadvantages where one country loses and the other country gains. But here, this point indicates the investment encourages the job market in both countries. I'll explain why. Because now, like I explained, country A and B. Country A is moving into country B in order to benefit from the benefits of cost, right? So in that case, what happens is, now they are moving into country B in order to access resources at a lower cost and so on and forth. But however, the trade is going to take place back in their home country. So there is benefits for both countries when it comes to the job market. Only thing, there will be a reduction, of course, there will be a reduction because there is a cost element being reduced. So in that case, there is a reduction, but it doesn't overall completely eliminate it. So that's why this point indicates that it encourages job market in both countries. Okay. And then there is sharing of technology. So when a business is taken from one country to another, the technology, the knowledge, everything is shared. So from this country to another country, the knowledge, technology, everything is shared. So that's a advantage to the country to whom the investment has been done, right? So that's a benefit. And then the next one would be, the third point is the national companies have an opportunity to expand their operations globally. Because of investment process, the national companies, they contain an opportunity to expand the operation globally. So this is basically what we discuss when it comes to globalization. So because of globalization, there is a benefit. The companies can expand. There is free movement created, and so on and forth. So that is a advantage here, right? And the next point. Okay, so is like I hope you guys can see this flow here. So there is sharing of technology we're talking about, and then we're talking about the opportunities of expansion as a result of globalization. And then because of that, what happens now? The standard of the economy is improved from a wider prospect, right? So the standards of the economies keep improving. So how does the standards of the economies improve? That is as a result of the living standards of the people. Because if in an economy, the living standards of the people reduce, that would affect the overall economy. Because like I explained previously, what happens is because of the lower living standards, the governments will be put in a position where they need to support. So in that case, the expenditure of the government increases. So when the government expenditure increases, of course the economy slows down because there is no income put into the government, whereas the expense goes. Now, how does the government earn an income? That is through the taxations. So when the businesses stop paying taxes, the income of the government would reduce. So when there is a lower income flow, but then expenses are more, that's going to create a problem. So it's just not basically for any household, or it's just not basically for any businesses, but it also applies, the same applies to the governments as well. Okay. So that's about the fourth point. Okay. Charges. So the next point will be average supply will shift to other countries, right? So here, because of the investments being taking place, the average supply will shift to other countries. This means that, like I explained to you previously, when one country can actually produce more, they have the capacity to produce more. So in that case, what happens? The supply can go to other countries because there is free movement, there is trade taking place. Okay, so that's an advantage of investment process. And then the country with high foreign direct investment is highly recognized at international summits. Okay. So that, okay, why are they highly recognized? So the country with high foreign direct investments, so they're not talking about the country or the organization who's making the foreign direct investments, but with high foreign direct investments is highly recognized. Why is it highly recognized? It's because of its resource factors. Okay. Why are the countries moving to a particular country? For example, I'm talking about this mostly happens between developed and developing nations, right? The main reason why developed nations move into developing nations is because one is the reduction in cost, right? And of course, the next reason would be the access of resources, because they might not have usually the developed nations are more industrialized, which means they lack the natural resources, but they have they have more of industrialized, more advanced technology, and they have big buildings and so on and forth. But when it comes to the natural resources, they do not have the natural resources. So the most majority most of the times the developing nations have the natural resources. So as a result, there is more foreign direct investments coming into the country. So they are highly recognized. Okay. Then the next point would be the profits gained by foreign direct investments increase reinvestment opportunities in the developing niche economy. So like I mentioned before, majority of the foreign direct investments take place in the developing nations. So as you can see here, so foreign direct investments come, they do businesses there, the countries earn good income, and also the businesses earn more income. As a result, the reinvestment opportunities increase. So there is investment made, improvements done, profits gained, and there is reinvestment, more expansion. So it will eventually expand the living standards of the people, the infrastructural development, economical boom. So the developing nations expand. Okay, so this is the flow when it comes to when you talk about the advantages of investment process of foreign direct investments, globalization. This would be the flow, and then finally, focus on research and development increases because there is expansion because of the growth taking place. There is more research and development elements that the businesses can focus on and expand. Okay, so these are the advantages of investment process with globalization. Okay, let me just have a look at the specification. So we know that where we track. Okay, we discussed up until this. So when it comes to your learning outcome 1 here, we've discussed about the concept of globalization, and then we've analyzed the concept of globalization, definition, types. Okay, and then we spoke about the investment process in globalization and the investments which have taken place between countries as a result of globalization. That is the foreign direct investments and the developing and developed nations and so on and forth. Okay. Right. Now let's look at the learning outcome 2. Okay. So it will be about global business environment. Right. So that is about the global business environment. So here we are going to, mainly when you talk about an environment, we usually connect it to the pestle factors or the PEST factors, which is political, economical, social, technological, legal, environmental, and so on and forth. So environment, if we talk about an environment, or sometimes the assessments would say analyze the impact and so on and forth. So we take this particular theory and use and apply it. So here we're going to talk about the global business environment. Global business environment is the environment in different countries with factors exogenous to the home environment of the organization, which influences the decision making on resource utilization. So it's about how the resource utilization can take place considering the environment factors, because each environmental factor would differ from one country to another. Okay, so that is what we will be looking at when it comes to environment, because even foreign direct investment taking place is also as a result of the environment, because maybe the host country which they are moving into has a better political standard, or good resources, good technology, and so on and forth. So the second point here, global business environment can be classified into the external and internal environment. The external environment includes social, political, economic, that are external, which the business cannot control or make or has a decision-making power within them. Internal is different, which is within the organization. Okay. In order to function effectively and efficiently, companies operating internationally must understand the environment. It's very important because you move into another country, you need to understand the different cultures, you need to understand the legal system, you need to understand the technological growth they have. Only then, if you understand, when you move into another country to operate, you'll be able to operate effectively and efficiently and as smooth as possible. If not, you cannot compete. You're not gonna be stuck there, and you're gonna face losses, and that would eventually affect the growth of the organization. Okay. So this I've explained to you just now about the business environment and the PESTEL framework I told you about. So whenever a decision making is done, whenever a decision making is about to be done, it is very important for an organization which operates in an international context to be able to be aware of each and every factor and how and what sort of in what position the factor is and how that will affect the business they operate. Okay, that's really, really important. So here it's about pest analysis. It's simple but significant and widely used tool that supports you to understand the big picture of each element, and it enables a company to take advantage of the opportunities and minimize the threats faced by their business activities. So this is very direct, guys. So a business will need to understand its significance. They need to apply it. Sometimes certain theories we study, it may not be applicable, but then pest is something that every business would use, even in general terms, as normal human beings, we would use to understand, okay, where we are and what decision we should make as a result of certain external implications taking place. So it's very, very important. Okay. So here are some of the factors that would fall, some of the sub-factors that would fall. So when it comes to social factors, so okay, I'm talking about social factors, but you need to know what sub-elements that they would fall into for you to like understand and make effective decisions. So when it comes to social factors, your culture comes into, people's attitude, the norms and values, their beliefs, the religious influences. Because, for example, McDonald's, if you take McDonald's, they have outlets in so many countries, but their menus differ. So because when it comes to India, when a McDonald's goes into India, they cannot have beef in their menu. That is something against the culture. Maybe now it's it's different and it's becoming different because of the globalization and cultural different cultural movements and so on and forth. But then these are certain things that businesses need to consider. So culture is something very important, so that would fall into the social factors. Okay, next one is the legal element. So it's about the law, regulations. You go into another country to in order to benefit from low cost labors, but then you need to also know about the about the acts available there in supporting the Laborers Act, Human Resource Act, all those things. About protecting the consumers, all of these legal elements a business should know before moving into that country to operate. Okay, so that is about the legal factors. See, these are like the sub factors that would fall, because when you talk about just legal factor, you cannot just talk about, okay, government rules and regulations. It's not that. You need to understand about the protection laws, the trade union laws, and so on and forth. Only then you can go into that particular country and then you can operate. Okay. So that's about the legal factors. Okay, political factors about the free services, the trade policies, the taxation policies, to some extent, the rules and regulations, the decisions they made in terms of usage of the monetary policies, the fiscal policies, the stability of the organization, stability of the government, the political situation. If in a country the political stability is not there, they keep changing rules and they keep there is no proper strict guidelines, because usually when there is a change of rule taking place, it needs to give, like, a 6 months notice. They need to allow people 6 months for the change to take place. They can't just take a decision overnight and say, okay, tomorrow this is the rules and you have to follow by that. That's going to be something difficult for the businesses to follow. So in that case, it's very important that you understand whether the political stability of the country who you are going to, move into is actually good, stable, and safe. Okay. So these analysis could be done, of course, through research. So it's very important when a business, before the movement is done, such research is done and then they are active. Okay. So this is about the economic factors. So that's about the interest rates, the taxes, the policies, inflation rate. That is very important, because why the reason you move into another country is because for you to, enjoy low cost. And but if the country is having inflation rates, what does that mean? That means the standard is going down, right? There's no point in you making money in that particular country, in their exchange, in their currency, because of inflation, the value of the money is going down. So when you are operating in a country where the value of the money, value of the currency is going down, there's no point for you. There is no point as a business, because you are at a lower scale. So you need to make sure that the country you go into has a good inflation rate and it is not very high. Okay. So those are important. And purchasing power of the consumers, because if you have high inflation rates and the value of the currency is really, low, the prices of goods are really high, what happens to the purchasing power of the consumers? That would reduce. People can't afford it, right? So in that case, there is no point in you shifting your business to a country as such, because you can't deal with all those things. You're not going to make any profits. So these come under economic factors. So now do you understand the importance of understanding these factors, understanding the environment before you make a decision to move into a particular nation? So this is very, very, very important. And even when it comes to your assessments, they would ask you to analyze, assess, critically evaluate. All those are key points. So you have to understand, research, and then you have to weigh the pros and cons, and then you are supposed to give your opinion as your conclusion. That's how your assessments will be. So it's very important for you to understand the theories, the in-depth understanding of the context there, the application, because if you understand the theory only, you can apply it again. Okay. So this is about the technological factors. So it's about the automation, the AI, artificial intelligences, the innovation facilities, the research and development facilities in the country. And so these are very important, where there are quality equipments, whether it's highly priced or lower priced, all sorts of things. So these are very important. When you shift to another country to operate, you need to know whether these things are available there and it's affordable. If it's not, then there is no, there is no effectiveness or efficiency that your business is going to gain. All right. Right. So these are the impacts. So the impact of social factors. Social factors are the most difficult to evaluate and pose greater challenge for organization strategy makers. These factors direct influence the demand as well. So here, these are the society, like societal factors, the views of the people, the fashion, and everything. Because when you go into another country to operate, you need to understand whether the product you are taking to that particular country is demanded there. If your product is not in demand in that country, there's no point in you moving into that country, because people are not going to buy. So these are minor things. As a business person, you think yourself as a person who has a business in your home country and you want to expand it to an international market. So in that case, you will know what things that you need to know and what things you need to research and understand in order for you to expand and move. Okay, so that's about the social factors here. So here are a few examples. Okay, so the rest are all about the impact of social factors, impact of political factors. So you need to basically understand the very important factor, which is to understand what the factor is, the meaning of it, so you will know to understand and expand it. Okay, so very important, global environment is connected to the pestle factor, so you need to know what pestle factors are, its importance and the sub elements, so you will be able to research and analyze based on that. Okay, right. So that is about, okay. So that's about the factors here, right? Right. So it's all about the impact of the factors. So that will cover the lesson 1 here. So when it comes to, I want to also talk about the entry and exit barriers, because like the word barrier means something stopping you. So entry barriers, when you move into a country, you will know the entry barriers. Okay, whether they are charging high taxations, whether the stability, all those things will come into place, whether there are any barriers there, right? And exit barriers, meaning when you go into a country, you operate and you're done with it, you want to move out, there are certain exit barriers involved, right? Certain things that you can't come out with. So those things, it can differ from one organization to another, depending on one country to another, it can differ. But when you move into, you need to understand your entry and exit barriers so that you will be able to plan ahead, because you know the production line, right? So you have different stages, you have the starting. So when you come to declining stage, you need to understand that for you to come out. Okay, so that's about the entry and exit barriers. Then effect of globalization and on the global business. So national and multinational businesses that we have addressed, which is about the factors that we discussed now, how it has a national and multinational, impact. And then environmental factors that affect the national and multinational businesses. Environmental factors, again, the pestle factors we discussed. So how these affect the national and multinational organizations, the same way like we discussed how it's going to affect the multinational organization. It is important for you as an organization to put that in place in your national country as well. For example, in your home country, you need to understand the political factor, you need to understand whether your country has good technology, you need to also understand whether the rules and regulations, whether the organization is abiding by the Human Rights Act and so on and forth. Only then, in whatever country you operate, whether it be your home country or whether it be your host country, any country you operate, you need to understand the pestle factors. You need to research and understand where you stand. Only then you will be able to make effective decisions. Okay, so this is about the theory that I've explained you, showing application. But when you are, doing your assessments, there's more writing involved. You can expand, write, do more research, and so on and forth. So far, we have covered the concept of globalization and the impact of global business environment on the national and multinational business organizations. So we've covered these two. In the next class, we will be going forward with the strategies and organizational values and so on and forth. Okay, so this is about today's class, and the next class I will see you guys again, and then we will move forward with the next learning outcome. Okay, so yeah, thank you guys, and I will see you in the next class.